What is going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about SoFi. I want to go over some of the data points, break it down what really moved it and what shorts did. Before we get into any of that, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So SoFi did close 1 cent in the green, so pretty solid stuff. 25.55 the low, 26.19 the high. So fairly volatile day, good for day traders and swing traders. Rather low volume though, so 48.6 million shares being traded, 75.8 is the average. And that's something I did bring up over this last weekend, is just that across the board, a lot of stocks are experiencing lower volume. So there is some level of hesitation that's coming from institutions. And even this last week, I think there was about $52 billion that left of both crypto and equity to go back to money markets. So hopefully we do have some good data coming out the next couple of trading days. So we have PPI, CPI, and also Michigan consumer sentiment. Today's data point added to the volatility. So we did have the revisions, non-farm payroll revisions, and it came in at negative 911,000. So in theory, anything roughly around 200,000 or less, market doesn't generally care about. Anything greater than that kind of signals some weakening. So at the end of the day, this was not good. But luckily enough, SoFi did have that fireside chat after hours yesterday. Anthony did a fairly good job. Nothing overly crazy, so no massive catalyst in my opinion. Obviously talked about the stablecoin, but no dates. I think that was going to be the big thing, is them kind of announcing when exactly, for instance, SoFi Invest is going to get that ability for crypto and whatever else. But he was very confident in the business and its members as well. So even though there's a lot of cracking starting to occur, especially last week, a lot of very negative data, it's still, SoFi should do fairly well. And so again, there's a lot of other things that he did bring up, but I think just his confidence, that kind of speaks volumes. So let me know your general thoughts on that in the comments below. Aside from that though, there was no news from SoFi, no SEC filings or anything like that. So it was just largely piggybacking off of the broader market. A couple bullish articles on a side note did come out. So I think just people are seeing like a lot more upside with SoFi. And then at the same time, I think there's just some bearish articles just kind of talking about how SoFi is up like 80% over the last 6 months and blah, 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 and how it's kind of overdone. So I think generally speaking, it kind of coincides with the lower volume. So I think the moral of the story is the market is waiting for that next big catalyst to either justify a next leg up or potentially consolidate. So should be a fun time. One thing that I do find fairly optimistic about today is shorts did return 1.19 million shares. This is something that did not occur with a lot of other stocks. So many stocks were actually like having shorts increasing their position today. In SoFi's case, they were returning. So of course, that's kind of bullish if you ask me. So 9.02% of the free float is being shorted, works out to be 106.21 million shares overall are being shorted. So we might be getting to that 8% short interest sooner than I anticipated. DTC 1.52 days, so still does signal that shorts are overextended. Quickly looking at the options, we had 29 million in calls, 8.5 in puts. 42% of all the options being done were bearish in nature. So not necessarily the best. Most of that actually did come from this one right here, where there was 1.3 million in premiums between 145 and 155. And then the first 1 hour of the trading day, that's where most of the bearish options did come from. From a bull standpoint, still, you see some optimism for it to be roughly around that 26 to 26.50. Bears are anticipating for it to be sub 25. So like SoFi is doing pretty good if you ask me, because even popping over here, one thing that I generally always bring up is that 10-day moving average. And luckily enough, SoFi is still above it. So the momentum is still there. I get it. A lot of stocks are starting to crumble and whatever else, but SoFi actually did do fairly well. And even looking at the market position, you still see a lot of solid willing buyers. So yeah, there might be a lot of volatility as what we've seen, but comparing, for instance, last week to even right now, the amount of buyers has just gone up more and more. So definitely something good to take note of. One thing I always like to bring up is looking at the flow. So still a lot of algorithmic trading, but this column right here, the larger ones. So it goes to show that a lot of large institutions were also getting in. And if we go back over here for a second and looking at the secondary market, which is where primarily a lot of those kind of larger transactions are done, you see a lot of big buys. So 2.7, 1.7, 13.4, 1.8, 1.9. So a lot of big buying being done after hours, even more and more. So yeah, it is what it is. A lot of big buys throughout the day. So I feel like one of the biggest things was just algos. That was also kind of adding some suppression, because if we look at this data, we see a lot of good buying. First thing though, mind you, this is where you had that string of selling. That's what pretty much took SoFi down a little bit. Why institutions always decide to sell first thing, I wish I knew. Instantly, my mind jumps to manipulation, that they're trying to kind of set forth like a momentum just to kind of have people like sheep just prompt a lot of selling. I'm sure it does hit some stop losses and causes some push lower, but why they do it, I'm not really sure. Dark pool, a lot of big transactions. So a couple big ones. So 2.2 million, 2.6, 1.1. So big money still is paying attention to SoFi, but as far as what it was doing in comparison to like 2-3 weeks ago, night and day difference. Couple of things to go over though, with it closing at 25.97, closed right above this R1. So like I said, it closed 1 cent in the green, and that 1 cent was above this R1. So moral of the story for tomorrow, just watch for 25.96. That's going to be that key point that most likely is going to bounce back and forth over. And that's actually exactly why I said yesterday. So just watch for 25.96. Again, if you're wanting to average down or swing trade, just orient it around here. So 25.96, 25.10, and then 24.23 is going to be those support levels. 26.50, 27.37 is going to be the next strong target / resistance points. And like I said, we do have a lot of big data. So PPI is coming out first thing tomorrow, bright and early, 7:30. And then aside from that, same thing for CPI, bright and early. And then Michigan consumer sentiment at 9 a.m. So a lot of that will most likely cause either this R2 or this pivot to be touched, at least in the next couple of trading days. So again, if you're wanting to swing trade, then just plan accordingly. As far as analyst ratings, there hasn't been anything. Last one was done pretty much 2 weeks ago. A lot of mixed articles, like I said, but at least SoFi is getting talked about. That's probably better than anything. And one thing to keep in mind though is that when, like, most likely near the second half of this week, you're going to have a lot of people starting to talk about interest rate cuts, because that is going to be the next big thing. And I think it's a little bit out of the realm of 50 basis points. So most likely we're just going to have a 25, and then in October, another 25. And then unless the data is really negative, then we might have 25, 50. And at that stage, the market would just boom. But right now, I think SoFi is just at the mercy of the broader market. But like I said, you are seeing a good amount of buying. So institutions still do see value in SoFi. But like I said, consolidation, I think just the broader market is due for some level of consolidation. It's just waiting for either negative news or positive news. Whatever is going to come first is going to really move the market. So let me know your thoughts on SoFi. When it comes down to that fireside chat from yesterday, what stood out to you? I know I gave you a very quick version of that. Stablecoin, just good momentum. What stood out to you as like a good optimistic thing to buy SoFi from? Like I said, I kind of listened to it and it was good, very inspirational, but I myself didn't really see anything that was new information that would prompt me to buy. But did I miss something? If so, let me know in the comments below. One final thing, as per usual, pop over to my Patreon if you're looking for some solid buy signals on stocks, options, crypto, many of which have been absolutely on point. Worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. With all that, appreciate all of you watching.